What is up, my tricksters? It's your friendly neighborhood spooky superhero. Wait, that's not the right intro. If today's video didn't give it away, and if the last skit certainly didn't give it away, we're going to be doing a vampire deck, and I'm uber excited about that. You know, because we're going to be getting spooky. Don't remember eating that. Anyway. That's a horrible joke, isn't it? Anyway, guys, before we get into that wonderful deck profile and, of course, the really fun replays, I want to remind you guys, if you guys want to support the channel, you should check out your playmats and get yourself a discount on some custom sleeves. They're going to look something like this with the white background, white squaring around the card. With whatever artwork you would like. And then, of course, they also do mats, and you should get 10% off if you do use my code BEN10YP at checkout. Or if you click the link in the doobly-doo. Oh, man, I almost forgot. My merch! I'm sure you guys saw the video earlier this week. I need you guys to go check the other link. Right below your playmats, there's a link to my Teespring. Get your Prank or Treat shirts while you still can. Alright, because they're only going to be here for a little while longer, because after November 1st, they're gone. So if you're a fan of Prank Kids or spooky season, you need to get that shirt. Alright, or sticker, or mug, or sweater. There's a little bit of variety there, so feel free to check it out. And I will be very much appreciative. It's going to be directly supporting the channel to help upgrade my very dinosaur-y tech. Let's go check out that replay footage, and at the end, I will show you guys the deck profile. All right, there you have it, guys. That was the vampire replays. So one of the first things I want to get at, I decided I wanted to do vampires because, you know, it's spooky season. And you're going to be getting this video before it's actually Halloween, or as I celebrate, Samhain. Because your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero is a pagan, a dirty pagan. So I will be taking the day off and enjoying the holiday. But I wanted to go ahead and make sure you guys had something you guys could watch. So this is being pre-recorded, and we're going to be talking about vampires. So the first thing I want to talk about with the vampires is they got some new support coming very soon, I think, in Battles of Chaos. So I figure we'll talk about the newer cards there. So we got Vampire, Ghost Ogre. And don't confuse this with Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This card is kind of a Stratos / Armageddon Knight, which is really good for this particular build. Or this, not build, this particular deck. Basically what you do is you send a vampire from your vampire card. So this could be a spell, a trap, monster, as long as the word vampire is in the name. To the graveyard from your hand, and then you get to add a level 4 or higher vampire monster from your deck to your hand, and send a level 2 or lower vampire to the grave, which is really good and really busted, because basically we're going to get to search all of our big vampires here, and then get to send the little ones to the graveyard, which we need to actually continue our plays. I'm not even kidding. So basically it's like, you'll get your graveyard fodder, which will be your Shadow Vampire or Vampire Grace, or in some cases, Vampire Voivode. That's probably not how you say that, but the new level 8 big vampire. And then I guess we'll talk about the other new cards in the extra deck. But this is the newest one is Vampire Level 8 vampire, whose name I cannot pronounce. Basically, this card is, if this card's normal summoned, you get to target 2 monsters in the opponent's graveyard and summon them to your side of the field in defense position, but their effects are negated. Which actually doesn't matter, because there's a really cool thing, synergy with this card if you tribute summon it with the level or the rank 8 Xyz monster. And I'll talk about that in a minute. One of the other cool effects this monster has is when a monster effect is activated, while the monsters with the same name are in the graveyard, quick effect, you can negate the activation. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's graveyard, you contribute 2 monsters special summoned. Okay, so basically, it's a negate if your opponent has that for a monster, if that monster already exists in the graveyard. So, like, for example, Cyber Dragons. This could negate pretty much anything in that entire deck if they have a Cyber Dragon in the graveyard. And then, as an example, and then of course, if your opponent brings something back, like say they play Monster Reborn to continue the plays, this card contribute 2 monsters and bring itself back, which is actually kind of cool. Or if you summon one to their field with like Vampire Sucker. The effect that's really interesting is summoning 2 of their monsters to use, but that's the only reason why you would even use it, and I will only play the one. Then we got Vampire Scarlet Scourge. This guy basically is like, oh, pay 1,000, get another vampire. So basically, this can turn if the graveyard is set up just right, this card becomes a +1 essentially. So if you have a monster that brings vampires back, and then this guy comes out, and then he'll bring another one. So it's just really good. And then you have Vampire Grace. If a level 5 or higher zombie monster is special summoned at all, any time period, she's like, oh, well, I'm going to pop out anyway at the cost of 2,000 life points. That's the thing about vampires that does kind of suck with them, no pun intended, is that the life point cost for everything. It's the only thing I really don't like about it, but I guess that it was the only way that Konami could think of to make them like vampires. But I digress. Then we have Shadow Vampire. Basically, all you need to know about this card is that it really can't be used for anything except for a Dark Xyz. If it's going to be used for Xyz play, it has to be a Dark monster. And then, of course, if it's normal summoned, you can special summon a Dark Vampire monster from the deck, so that's really good. So this is another way for us to get this card, basically. Then we got Fräulein here, which I actually I've been seeing a lot of the decks online only playing one of her in these zombie world variants. But I decided to play two because this is more about vampires and less about zombie world. Speaking of zombie world, we got the Banshee. You need her to get to your zombie world because for this particular strategy, it is kind of important, unfortunately. Mizuki is part of your extension play. Solitaire, also, it's just consistency card. Unizombie is also a key card, but we have to play it at a lower number because we have to play we're after the Ghost Star. Because remember, this is a vampire deck, not a zombie world deck. So that's why the ratios probably look a little bit off to some of you. Ash Blossom, just because we need the hand traps, is also a tuner and of course comes to worse. Vampire Retainer is actually like, you got to play 3 of it, but it's actually like one of the worst vampires. This one does search your spells and traps, which are important. So it searches our Foolish Burial. It searches the card that lets us normal summon again or tribute summon after normal summoning, and our negation protection. So that's really good. Vampire Familiar. This is the best card in the deck. This is obviously your summon a vampire for free card, kinda. There are also multiple ways to get this card in the graveyard. Also, if you have to normal summon it, there's a really good combo with it by trading it off for a Link Karibo to get your plays started. So that's really fun. This is Vampire Desire. You're using this card as most of the time you're using this card as a Foolish, but it can, in a pinch, be used as Monster Reborn. I don't really like that, but I prefer to use it to send our big vampires to the graveyard. It's going to change the level of a vampire monster already on the field to do that, but it's basically just used vampire-specific Foolish Burial. Upstart, draw power. Terraforming, deck thinning, giving us the field spell. It's just another way. Oops, we don't need that. Foolish Burial. Just, send whatever we need. Call by the Grave, because unfortunately this deck is very susceptible to hand traps. A well-timed Ash, a well-timed Effect Veiler, or Imperm can really halt this deck. So crossouts would probably be something you might want to test in this. This video is, like I said, this deck's just for funsies, because the vampires are such a cool archetype. They still need some more support, to be honest, though, to be competitively viable, in my opinion. Because all of the cards that they need are like high price staples, and it's just not going to help. Then we got Volvent Vampire Domain. Basically, this is the card that's going to give you back all the life points you've been paying. It also lets you pay 500 to normal summon again. So it is relevant. Zombie World. This card's kind of needed because it's also for a combo with this badass card, Rivalry of Warlords. Unfortunately, regular Zombie World zombie decks with like Doom Kaiser will play this combo, obviously, because Rivalry plus Zombie World equals your opponent can't play Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't really like that because it's very unfair, but unfortunately the vampires have to use this play, in my opinion, because this deck just cannot keep up. It just 100% cannot keep up. Then we've got Vampire Domination. There are probably a few other ways you can play this deck to keep up. Maybe there's a going second build out there. I just haven't had the time to really experiment with it. But, you might try that. Dark Ruler No More, Super Poly, etc. if that might be something for somebody who's really adamant about playing the vampire deck. Link Karibo, you absolutely need this card. This is actually going to help you unbrick your hands, because sometimes it happens. Then we got Avendred Savior. This is basically a Avendred card, but it's really cool because it puts zombies in the graveyard, which all of our vampires count as, and lowering the opponent's attack monsters, as well as setting us up to continue to play on our turn is really cool. And also, he's a superhero, so, that's like a bonus for me. Just saying. Vampire Sucker, this card sees play pretty much in every zombie thing, just because she's a way for you to go plus. You can give your opponent back a monster, but in a lot of decks that monster won't stick around, or it can be actually very hurtful for them, depending on the deck that you're up against, because you can have Rivalry and this up. If they don't have anything, you summon whatever monster. It's a zombie, now they can't play. So the setup happens that way. And then you drew a card. Handy. Just some generic stuff. Phoenix, Unicorn, I never really use these, but They came up a few times. Then you've got one of the newer cards, Vampire Fascinator. This is or Fascinator. I don't. That's probably not how you say that. Anyway, basically you need 3 monsters, including a zombie monster, to summon this card. And the first thing it's going to do is you can target a monster in your opponent's side of the field, or your opponent's graveyard, excuse me, and special them to your side of the field in defense position. But you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombie monsters, which is going to be fine because any deck that you're going to be playing this in is probably a zombie deck. And then you get to tribute a vampire, including itself, by the way. And you can take control of an opponent's monster. So that's really kind of cool. It does. I didn't really use that second effect a whole lot, to be honest with you. I actually used the first one to link climb more often, but zombie decks will probably use it for that purpose too. Boral Sword, just because I like budget cards, and this is budget. If you're actually going to try to play this competitively, you might want Access Code Talker instead. Also, the Beatrice would have been a card to play, but I decided to go with Pilgrim Reaper just because it fits a little more of the spooky season themed. I saw a lot of people playing the Beatrice, but I wanted this one. Also, he can get really big. Because like all of our monsters are dark pretty much. Excuse me. And he also will mill the top 5 cards of the deck. So I thought that was really cool and very much in theme. Then we got Dragulus, the vampiric dragon, excuse me. Most of this card I'm just putting monsters face down and that kind of thing. And then we got one of our very important one, Dampier, Vampire Chardon. This card is basically busted because we'll use both of X right off the bat. You know, targeting the opponent's card and sending it to the grave, it doesn't destroy. That's really handy in a lot of places. The only thing I don't like is that it targets. And in a format where Dragoon exists, the Dragoon package probably also would have been a good idea for this deck, but I didn't really think about that. That's okay though. This deck is just for more funsies for the Halloween stuff. And of course, like I said, I'm mentioning all the cards that are competitive. So if you're actually considering wanting to build a competitive vampire deck, by all means, go for it. And this is the card I'm uber excited about, is the Undead Vampire. The reason why this card is actually going to be exciting for me is because of Blue Eyes and like Danger Blue Eyes variants as opposed to anything else. But, you know. This deck can obviously take advantage of it really easily. So one of the cool things is basically if this card if you're going to use any monsters that are owned by your opponent. So for example, if you creature swap, mind control, rose, Mark of the Rose, whatever, they count as level 8. They'll count as level 8 because you're using an opponent's monster. So it won't really matter what their level is. So that's really kind of cool there. Or if you Monster Reborn one back to your side, that's just kind of neat there. And then basically it's detach a material, and then you get to send the top 4 cards of the deck to the graveyard, which actually is the mechanic I think would have been a better mechanic for vampires instead of what they went with initially with the paying life points thing. But we can talk about that towards the end. This is the card I'm uber excited about, and I'm ready for this card to be here, because basically this card is mill the top 4. If there's a monster among them and either players sends a monster, you get to pick the best one, because both players mill the top 4 cards of their deck. So if there's a monster among any of the cards milled, you get to pick one to bring it back to your side of the field. And I'm just like, oh, you mean to tell me on top of being a 3000 beat stick, this vampire is like, oh yes, thin out your deck and also, take the best monster out of the 8 cards that are milled between the 2 players. I like this. I like this card. But like I said, I think it's going to be, you see more play in something like Danger and Blue Eyes than I think it sees play here. But that's just me. Omega, because, it's basically Omega's just really in here for Dogmatica matchups. You can also potentially make it with Unizombie, but it never came up for me. This card mostly just got used for that purpose. There was one game where I actually got the Savage Dragon out. There's actually another game. I don't know if I got the replay. I can't remember if it's in the replay footage or not. But there's a game where I actually summoned this and didn't have a link in there, but it didn't matter. So that was just kind of funny. because I was just summoning it because it had 3,000 points. And then we got this card that nobody who's probably wanting to play vampires will actually play this card, and that is Baroness de Fleur. She's just a negate and a destroyer card, which is actually really good. Like, I like that. Being able to negate and destroy stuff, that's grade A stuff. You pretty much use Unizombies effect once, make it level 4, and then you take one of your level 6 monsters here, and then you basically make that. That's the big way to do it. Or you could, like, you know, make it 5 and then summon like Fraulein here, or Shadow Vampire, and then either way you get to it. So there you go. And then there's just some other random stuff in here. Like, I got some extra vampire cards at the end here. If some other cards you might want to think about is, like, since you're probably gonna want to use Zombie World to your advantage, because kind of like every zombie deck right now kind of has to. You might think about the Super Poly stuff, and then of course, like, I've just got random staples in here, but you don't have to follow any of this. Like, oh, and if your sideboard probably should have Pankratops if there's a chance you might be going second. Just FYI for me, I think Pankratops is like one of the must-have in every sideboard, just because it's like it's spell and trap hate as well as a big monster to punch with. So depending on what you're up against, might be worth playing. I don't know. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of this vampire deck, and do me a solid. Let me know what you would do to improve this vampire deck in the comments below. I hope this video was informative. I hope the replays were fun, and I hope you're having a very safe and epic spooky season. And guys, I'm excited to go into the next month. So if you're new to the Ben 10,000 yugioh channel and you've came this far into the video, thank you for watching this far in the video. Please consider subscribing. I would love to let you invite you to be part of my Tricksters gang. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. I'm your very tired, friendly neighborhood spooky superhero. So I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee and enjoy my holiday. I hope you do the same, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.